Zasutir POV. I suppose I ought to thank the gods that Vidmori is a benevolent being. However, I wonder what he wants a bird for, of all things. Zasutir went and wandered the woods near the camp the others were starting to set up, deciding to get a start on Vidmori's request. After a head count, the now freed slaves were made up of 15 beastskin, 8 of which were children, a pair of dwarves, a mother and daughter, a half-elf boy, and 3 human youths, as well as himself. At the end of the day, it wasn't a lot of people when it came to the grand scale of the theocracy, but he cursed himself for not noticing this disgusting practice sooner. Looking around, he was also cursing himself at how ineffective he was at being a hunter. He spotted several large birds of prey, glorious eagles and falcons just soaring out of reach. The few that he has managed to sneak up on, he's missed terribly. His old and battered arms are unable to properly handle the bow and arrows that were gifted to him by Vidmori. And the times he can get a shot off, his eyes fail him as he's either way off or just barely missing. He keeps trying though, burning himself well into the night until a teenage rat beastskin comes to find him. Elder, there you are. We were getting worried when you hadn't come back to camp. Come, we've got some dinner going. A stew made with some mushrooms, herbs and tubers, accompanied by dried meats, he enthused, gently taking the older man by his arm. However, he was watching the elder with worried eyes. Sorry. I must have not noticed the day escaping me, Zasutir replied tiredly, letting out a heavy sigh. What's the matter, elder? You haven't explained why you've been out hunting. I understand that our food situation may be a bit precarious. However, that doesn't mean you need to be the one going out to hunt, the rat beastskin asked, attempting to guess the reason himself. Zasutir looked over to the teen rat beastskin and spoke up. Your name is Remy, right? Remy nodded in confirmation, just happy the elder remembered his name after just hearing it once. Well, Remy, the master of this land, Vidmori, has tasked me with hunting a bird for him. As soon as I can, he shall provide us with materials, so that we can build ourselves a haven sooner rather than later. Remy looked surprised, his rodent ear twitching in thought, as his pink rat tail curled and flicked behind him. So that's why you've been out in the woods all afternoon and night. Why didn't you tell any of us? Zasutir looked abashed as he averted his gaze. Vidmori tasked me with this, and there was plenty of work to be done at camp. You didn't need an old lizard like me getting in your way. Remy could see where the elder was coming from, but shook his head. You need to rest to recover from your wounds like the rest of us, elder. We were concerned, he explained, leading him to the camp. A good-sized bonfire was going, a wolf woman stirring at the pot that was still bubbling with stew, as the group welcomed the duo back. Remy makes his way over to the pot and serves up a bowl of the stew, and brings it over to the elder with some bread, meat, and some wine from the wagons. A younger dog girl setting out some blankets for the elder to rest on. Zasutir can feel the exhaustion coursing through his body now that he's finally off his feet. He feels even more feeble than before, and figures he probably would have collapsed in the woods had Remy not tracked him down. He eats quietly, the warm soup feeling like a luxury after these last few days. Suddenly there's a shift in the atmosphere of the camp, the adults and teens getting to their feet. A few of them collect the weapons they got, while others would improvise clubs from thick tree branches. Prowler, and it's a huge one, said one of the teen humans, wielding the short sword. Zasutir turns to look before forcing himself to stand as he gets between the group and the prowler. Calm yourselves, please. This is Basti, one of Vidmori's beasts. If she meant us harm, we would not have even seen her. At that, the camp was still somewhat anxious, but they lowered their weapons. Basti, for her part, was relaxed the whole time, as if these people didn't even register as a threat. Once they were relaxed, she settled down at the edge of the flamelight and watched over the camp for the night. The group was reasonably anxious, but they slowly got over it as they returned to enjoy their dinner before going their separate ways. Dividing themselves into the array of about 20 tents, having taken the camping supplies from the caravan to make sure everyone has something between themselves and the elements. The following day came and went, and soon it was the afternoon when Zasutir began to wake. He could feel his whole body ache and strain against his will to move. Remy was right. He definitely shouldn't have pushed himself to hunt for so long, especially after climbing a mountain. It is a blessing, though, that his natural constitution has already healed most of the superficial wounds. He could see his tail growing the faintest of nubs where he had ripped it off the day before. Finally, with some more effort, he got to his feet and left his tent, and was greeted by the afternoon sun. The camp was abuzz with activity, lunch being served as Remy and the wolf woman cooked up some venison from a deer one of the other beastkin hunted. "Good morning, Elder," Remy called out cheerfully upon seeing him, a few other camp members doing the same as he approached. "Or rather, I should say good afternoon." He mused kindly, as he offered a plate with fire-grilled seasoned meat and steamed tubers. Zassatir took it gratefully once more, lowering his head slightly in thanks. "It seems I was more exhausted than I realized. Thank you, Remy, for coming to get me last night." The rat teen smiled cheerfully, his rodent ear twitching with delight. "It was no problem, Elder. We're just glad to see you looking better." With that, Zassatir settled down under the shade of a nearby tree to eat more. The food filled his still desperate stomach as he savoured every morsel. Other members of the camp greeted Zassatir as they passed, but one of the human teens stopped by and offered a small cloth-wrapped bundle. "Remy mentioned you needed a berth of Vidmori. I'm sorry if this is not good enough, but I managed to strike it out of the air with my sling," she explained, unfurling the bundle to reveal a sparrow with a blooded torso. It would have been a difficult shot indeed. Zassatir couldn't help but let out a big toothy smile. "It's perfect. Thank you for your help," he enthused softly, taking the bundle in his clawed hands ever so gingerly. The human teen smiled as she stood. "You're welcome, Elder. Have a good day now," she said gently as she walked off. With the meal done and a bird in his hand, he made his way towards the mountain and sighed, beginning the ascent. However, he was approached by Basti, who seemed to have been waiting for him. She lay down and flicked her ears, seemingly still waiting. Do you wish for me to ride you?" he asked the massive prowler with some anxiety. Surprisingly, she gives him a nod. At that, he made his way over and climbed on, and as soon as he was settled in, she began to move and climb with considerable speed and care. Before he knew it, he was climbing off Basti, standing before the sculpted entrance to Vidmori's chamber. Almost hesitantly, he stepped inside, claws clattering noisily against the brick. The core's voice echoes in his mind. "Ah, welcome back. I see you were successful in your task. Good, good." Zassatir got to his knees as he approached the pedestal with the core of Vidmori before him. "Yes, O mighty Vidmori, I offer you this sparrow. Forgive me for not offering you a finer bird as I had promised." "Don't worry about it, and the bird is perfect. Now then, for your second task," Vidmori started to say, kinda trailing off in Zassatir's mind. Zassatir looked eager, though, as he looked up to the core. "Yes, Vidmori, what is it? For my people, I'll do anything." Vidmori was still hesitant, as it took a few moments for him to speak up again. "Good. That's a good mindset." "Vidmori, what is the second task you have for me?" Zassatir asks, confused by Vidmori's hesitancy. "Well, that's the thing. For your second task, I need you to die," he finally said. Zassatir was silent for a moment or two, looking surprised before quietly whispering, "Oh."